Owners of perhaps the most unethical tank in the NHL last year, the Vancouver Canucks were absolutely dreadful and were rewarded for their terribleness by getting the third overall pick. How you like them apples, Vancouver? A team that is still very much rebuilding and has overhauled most of their front office and coaching staff over the summer. Are the Vancouver Canucks actually going to be watchable this season, let alone good? No chance, but we're still going to have to talk about them.
Oh no! We suck again!
The 2025-26 Vancouver Canucks could be described in one word: unwatchable. They were an absolutely terrible, disgusting mess, finishing at the bottom of the NHL standings with only 58 points, 14 points clear of the 31st team, the Chicago Blackhawks. This team was disgustingly bad. They had a negative 100 goal differential on the season. They only won 9 games at home all year. The only notable thing that happened to the Canucks last year was that the Quinn Hughes saga finally ended as he was traded to the Minnesota Wild for admittedly a pretty decent return that included top prospect Steve Buium, Liam Ogren, sacrificial lamb Marco Rossi, and a first-round pick. But once Quinn Hughes was traded away, the Vancouver Canucks faded into absolute obscurity for the rest of the year, never being remotely close to being a professional organization. Hell, their fans even had to suffer through the indignity of rooting for their bitter rival Connor McDavid to help carry Team Canada in the Olympics, and even that was all for naught because Canada lost. Of course, there was a light at the end of the tunnel that this horrific season would be a boon to the Vancouver Canucks' future. They'd win the draft lottery, get the first overall pick, and draft a perceived generational talent in Gavin McKenna. But what's a bigger fuck you from the gods than not just not winning the draft lottery, but having your big brothers in the East Coast win it instead? No. Jesus Christ, being a fan of this team is an exercise in masochism.
You want to have dodgeball victory, you got to grab it by its haunches and you got to pump it into submission. That's the only way.
After that dreadful season, the Vancouver Canucks decided that, hey, maybe the guys running the show were kind of incompetent and moved off of GM Patrick Allvin as well as head coach Adam Foote. You can feel a little bit bad for Foote as it was his first year on the job and he was basically given a bowl of mismatched Legos and told to use it to build a rocket ship. He was probably a little bit out of his depth last year, but I don't think the team's failure is entirely on him. For Allvin though, yeah, that guy sucks at his job. There's no reason that he should have lasted a single second longer. And thus it fell on Francesco Aquilini to assemble a brain trust that could bring the Vancouver Canucks back to their former glory. Of course, nobody wanted to work with him, so they had to do the next best thing and take a page out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's all that nostalgia slop, baby. Look at that, guys. Manny Malhotra is our new head coach. We got the Sedin twins back in the front office role. And hey, look, our new GM, Ryan Johnson. Yeah, he played for the team. Like with the Sedins once. Hey, shut up. We didn't want to have the Sedins be in charge and ruin their legacy in this city.
I never heard of half of these guys, and the ones I do know are way past their prime.
Most of these guys never had a prime.
Do you want to know how I know that the Vancouver Canucks are tanking again this year? They're bringing back most of the team that failed so spectacularly last season. Brock Besser, who regretted signing that extension in Vancouver probably 10 seconds after he signed it, is still trapped here, destined to waste the last few prime years of his career in this godforsaken hellhole. His center on the first line, against the will of absolutely everybody involved, is Elias Pettersson. Last year, PD actually led the Canucks in scoring, putting up 15 goals and 51 points in 74 games. Oh god, I got secondhand depression just by saying that. Don't worry, Canucks fans, you only got to deal with that $11.5 million cap hit for another 6 years.
We're fucked! We're fucked, man! We're fucked!
That top line is rounded out by Jake DeBrusk, who is counting down the days until he can finally be freed, as he's the one asset who's actually probably able to be traded. Marco Rossi, Drew O'Connor, and Linus Karlsson make up perhaps the least threatening second line I've ever seen. And on the third line, they bring back Liam Ogren, praying that he turns into something, as well as Phil Hedl for the 7 games that he actually manages to stay healthy. They're also going to be praying to the gods that Braden Coots and Jonathan Lekkerimäki will actually turn into something good this year. On the back line, they're headlined by Philip Hronek, who, like Besser, is destined to be trapped in this purgatory, making way less money than he deserves to, paired with the young Buium, who is the best young player on this team and thus their bright young hope that all fans will be pinning their hopes to. No pressure, kid. We're just all expecting you to be the next Quinn Hughes. On the back end, it's a lot of other flotsam and jetsam, like the other Elias Pettersson, maybe the better Elias Pettersson, honestly, and Tom Willander. In goal, it is still Thatcher Demko, who used to be really good before injuries just completely derailed his career.
Unit lost.
Case in point, last year he only played in 20 games and put up a save percentage below 90, so it's probably going to fall entirely on Kevin Lankinen to bail this team out, and behind that porous defense, he'll probably be letting up 3 or 4 goals every night.
Welcome to the danger zone.
The Canucks didn't do much of anything in the offseason. They added Jamie Oleksiak to the back end to get to the salary floor. They did their French-speaking brethren a solid by taking on Brendan Gallagher's contract, letting him waste away that last year of his contract as he watches his old buddies prime themselves for maybe a cup run. Brought in Luke Shen, who is way past his sell-by date, and called it a day in terms of free agency. The biggest additions that the Canucks made were obviously in the draft. They didn't end up with the number 1 pick or even the number 2 pick because Ivar Stenberg would actually be a great get for them, and they ended up in perhaps the worst spot of the entire draft at number 3 overall. For a team that needed a game-breaking forward, they missed out on the top 2, and thus they were left with the possibility of reaching for a forward or just taking the best defenseman in the entire draft. They went with taking the forward, Nepo baby Caleb Malhotra. Okay, that was a little bit harsh. Caleb Malhotra was legitimately worthy of being considered as a top 5 pick. I personally would have taken Chase Reed or Carson Carrolls there, but it's not an egregious reach. However, the fact that he is being drafted by the team that is now being coached by his father is, let's just say, a little bit funky. The kid's either going to have to work twice as hard to prove himself, or he's going to get all of the advantages and more opportunities than he deserves. Either way, just not good roster building by the Vancouver Canucks. With their other first-round draft pick, the one they acquired in the Quinn Hughes trade, they took Adam Novotny out of the OHL at pick number 24. He projects to be maybe high-end middle 6 forward, so that means the team that scored the 3rd fewest goals last year and has most of their top prospects on defense is still not adding any players with actual game-breaking scoring ability.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
I'm really racking my brain trying to figure out what there is to like about this damn team, and all I'm coming up with is that Brock Besser is loyal. He's not even that good. He's, a fine top 6 forward on most contending teams, but he's not an elite winger. The other guys who could give you hope, like Demko and Hedel, are always injured. Elias Pettersson has had the most shocking decline of any player I've ever seen. And you don't have a young star to really showcase. It wouldn't surprise me if Caleb Malhotra doesn't play that much in the NHL this year. If you put a gun to my head and made me say the one thing that I actually like about the Vancouver Canucks, it would be that they're not my favorite team, at least. Holy shit, could you imagine?
For the love of God! Please!
Yeah, this team is going to be absolute ass cheeks. Like, huge silicone-injected ass cheeks. They will undoubtedly finish at the bottom of the NHL standings again this year. I would be shocked if they're not one of the 3 worst teams in the league, and they're going to be picking at the top of the NHL draft next year. They're tanking for Landon, once again, in the most unethical way, and they don't even have the players that they could use to acquire more draft capital in the next draft. And not only are they going to be bad, there's just no intrigue around this team. At least last year, we had the aforementioned Hughes saga. This year, what are we all going to be waiting with bated breath to see where Jake DeBrusk gets traded to? Hardly. The best case scenario for the Canucks is that Bouillon actually is that guy and takes a huge step in his development. Malhotra makes it to the team at the end of the year and shows a lot of potential. And that guys like Coots, Lekaramaki, Atu Ratu, and some others actually show some promise. If they do that, maybe they'll only be the 3rd worst team in the NHL this year.
I hate this team. I was born into this, and I'm not gonna ever. I'm always a Jets fan, but I hate this team.